Hello, everyone. I'm David. I'm a TI, and I'm here with Stephane from Belgium. He's a target individual as well. He's been targeted since 2017 that he knows of. He's a very good dude. I've known him back when I was in the hospital. He came through and helped me out a couple of times. Very much appreciated. And he does a lot of research in this and has put a lot of effort in researching this. And he's also a computer scientist. What is it? Computer what?
Computer science is
Yeah,
the
computer science graduate. He went to school for it, and I'm gonna read this devotion like I have, and then I'm gonna get into interviewing him. It is how we handle it that matters. Profilers go to work when the green light gets put on us, investigating our friends, what we like, where we go, why we get mad, how we live, what makes us happy or sad. They hook their claws into our private lives long before we ever have a clue. Their studies launched way before they engage us in guerrilla warfare and cause our lives to systematically fall apart. They're well organized and clever in gathering vital and personal information on us. After they make us homeless, they can easily take the material items they want and then extort our money. Their entire motive is to break our spirit and take over our soul. But not being deeply rooted in Babylonian world system, we have a chance at true survival. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that's within me. Psalms 103:2. Okay, so could you just explain, Stefan, how what was your life was like before targeting and what it was like now? What it's like now after targeting?
so with the before life. So when I became aware, as you mentioned, in 2017 in September, that I was receiving voices in my head, the V2K. Before that, I actually had a great life, more or less. Professionally, I was doing well. I had a good relationship. Financially, everything was well. I had my flat and all that. And then I started to, before 2017, start to run into some issues with myself, going back to my past and my sexual orientation and all this. And this accumulated. Perhaps this was manipulated as well before, to the point where I really needed help. And I sought and I found psychiatric help, and I actually stayed in a psychiatric hospital for two times, actually 4 months and 8 months. And that ended in May 2017, so right before I started to hear the voices. And then, yeah, then in 2017, so before that, of course, for a long time, I was on medical leave. And then the voices started. And then when I thought I was finally at peace with myself and all the baggage I had from my past, then the voices started. So you might wonder, like where we were just talking before we started the recording, is have they pushed me or manipulated me into getting into this mental crisis, so I would seek and have to go through this mental health crisis, so that they could discredit me later. That's one little side
Yeah,
note.
like before they turned it on and
Yeah,
started really putting it on. Oh, let's get him in the mental hospital, establish that record of mental, and then we can really torture him with our
yeah,
weapons.
yeah.
Makes sense.
Makes sense. So then it started in 2017. I was still on medical leave at that time, trying to pick up the pieces after I came out of the mental hospital. And bit by bit that started to work, but the psychological tricks that they play on you all the time became more and more increased, and that started to depriving me bit by bit of many things. So first of all, there's sleep. There's the fact that you get pushed into these psychotic episodes, which I had a few of, which were quite dangerous actually. Luckily enough, I was quickly, after had 2 or 3 episodes like that, I became aware of them, and I've learned to make sure that when I feel unsafe, when I start these panic cravings or anxiety increasing, that I learn always to stay at home, stay safe until this passes over. But a few times I really put myself in danger. I mean, I jumped in front of a train, I crashed my car. It's really crazy things like that I've done, that I
Did
always
you
came
do that
out.
to get away from all this?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, they run in 2018. I
Did the
think
train stop before it hit you?
actually I jumped away. So the train did stop, but I'm actually jumped away just when you saw it was at night.
Oh, okay.
The two headlights of the train coming closer at me, and I think maybe like 2 meters before the train was going to, well,
Yeah.
pass over. I
Wow.
jumped away, but I felt that my legs cramped up, and somehow I jumped away, and the conductor of the train jumped out saying, "Oh, are you okay?" I mean, everybody was really helpful, and but yeah, I was in complete shock when that happened. But the thing that led up to that was a whole psychotic episode where that played out over maybe yeah, the whole night before,
Well, I don't,
the whole day.
but you wouldn't say
And
psychotic episode because you're not psychotic. I
I'm
guess
not psychotic,
it would
but
be it would be more like a, a targeting episode or,
yeah. But I mean, I describe it as a psychotic episode because I know that's how that's what it does to me.
okay.
Um, so what happened is it went through a whole scripted thing where eventually everybody in my life was sort of convincingly depicted, even with visual artificial reality hallucinations in front of me, where you have people sitting next to you in a kind of greenish glow. Call it hallucinations if you will. And in the end it all, the not to go through the whole story again, but essentially everybody was against me, and in that case it's like, oh, I had to crush myself because otherwise the world was going to be worse off or something like that. But it was really, and so this was one of those episodes, one of the worst ones which I had. But even before that, I mean, they've pushed me through scenarios that lapsed sometimes 3 days in a row, which were really just playbook scenarios where they push you to commit suicide. So bit by bit, they break you down, they break you down, they break you down with other stories and this and that, and then they say this and that, and it's hard to maybe understand what it is unless you went through it.
Yeah, I
Uh,
went through 4 or 5 of those
Yeah,
serious ones
and I
too, and
had
ended up in the
and
hospital.
they resulted in suicide attempts. I'm yeah, almost ashamed to say, but you better be
Yeah,
open.
I went through 4 or 5 of those in town.
Yeah. So
So did you end up in the hospital from them?
I have a couple of one. I had two or three ones where I ended up in the hospital. Yes.
Well, I'm glad that it didn't happen because that's their ultimate goal.
Yeah.
That's what they're shooting for.
So that was in the year 2018, and that lasted for about a year, where they were continuing these scripts, trying to push me to commit suicide. I must say that they haven't tried to come up with, as far as I can tell, they haven't targeted me with such elaborate scripts for a while now, for a couple of years, I think. As if they've sort of given up on trying to get me to commit suicide by pushing me to do so in that way. I guess I've made them understand that yeah, I know when they start to do this, and I know how to deal with, like I just said, when something could turn me into a psychotic episode. Then I know how to stay safe myself.
And
And
plus, you're not crazy now too, so that
yeah,
helps too. Because
yeah,
at first, when you're first going through this,
yeah.
I know for me, my first
Mm.
2 years, I had many attempts because I was like, man, I'm going crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. That also took quite a while for me to convince myself that I'm not crazy, because every time you go and see a psychiatrist or a therapist, which I was seeing quite a lot at the time. I mean, everybody's telling you you're crazy. I mean, it's auditive hallucinations. It's a nostalgic depression. It's. I mean, I've heard a whole bunch of different things, diagnosis, but none of them really kind of put a finger on the wounds, as to say. I mean, it's like, okay, yeah, maybe, but it's, and then it comes to, okay, so assuming that it's one of those, say, auditive hallucinations. Now, how do you treat this? And then that's an even more difficult question you ask to a healthcare provider. Then they even have no clue at all. And then, of course, you go through all the series of pills that they give you, antidepressants, antipsychotics, sleeping pills. I mean, I've gone through all of them. I've started a new one recently, actually, which seems to help a little bit to suppress the voices and also to calm my anxiety. But yeah, this is only a few months, so I'm hoping it.
What's it called?
It's called amisulpride, Amisulpride,
Hmm,
amisulpride.
I ain't never heard of that.
Amisulpride.
Because you
Yeah,
know, Duncan talks about in his
it's
books, Robert
antipsychotic.
Duncan talks about benzos
Yeah,
helping with this stuff. And you know, I get Ativan, and that really, really helps me sometimes if I'm, you know, if I'm hearing stuff and they're really, really messing with me and stressed out and I need sleep. Um,
yeah. I mean, in worst cases, when I'm too sleep deprived, we can talk about sleep deprivation later, maybe. I have to take sleeping aids as well. I mean, there's no other way. I mean, if you there's been episodes, and that obviously leads to the psychotic episodes I had. There's been periods where I've been awake for 2 weeks straight, 3 weeks straight, even 4 weeks straight without sleep. That they just kept on pushing me through this, and I was not sleeping at all. And in the end, I mean, after I went through a couple of these things, when I remember even the first time I told my doctor about this, I mean, I was asleep for 3 weeks. The doctor said, like, that's impossible. That's impossible. It's not possible. I said, I mean, yeah, I'm really pretty sure that I didn't sleep. And they're saying, yeah, you're making this up. And that's, yeah. But yeah, sleep, you need to get your sleep. And if there is really no other way, then you need to take sleep medication. But like I said, with the medication I'm taking right now, I'm actually able to get my 6 hour sleeps every night right now. So it is making me fat though. I'm not too happy about that. But
yeah. Yeah, see, these doctors think it's
abs-
impossible to go that long without sleep, but they don't understand this sleep deprivation stuff gets serious. They'll keep you up for days and on that in time. And if you can't sleep, you can't sleep.
yeah,
Um, and it's like the doctors don't even want to listen to you. They're just there to get that money and diagnose you and get you out of there.
yeah. So to the second part of your question, what is my life like now? So well, I mean, I've been deprived of a bunch of things, huh? So financially, things started to go downwards as well. As I was no longer working, I'm left on how do you call this? Well, medical benefits. So I have to that takes quite a lot of it as well. So I have to adjust my standards of living. That's fine, but that's of course part of the deprivation as well. The sleep deprivation. I mean, that's all the time and doesn't stop, not even now. Then there's of course the mental stuff. I mean, there's no time left. There's no headspace, I called it, left in your mind where you can think clearly, because all the time you have this subconscious suppressed anxiety that is making you afraid of not being able to pay the bills, not being able to do something. You're going to get into trouble of this or that, and all these anxieties that was built up, and they're blocking your ability to be able to do anything else, to think anything else, to see a future. This is really very yeah, very dangerous. So that's what the medication is now. Actually, this helped me a lot with that problem. Um, for the rest,
But the
like,
medication don't never take care of your targeting, though. You notice
no,
that?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true.
And that's how you know if you know, medication really, I mean, it'll take it might help you sleep and stuff, but on target individuals, medication don't work because it's V2K, it's remote neural monitoring. You know what I'm saying? It's not
Yeah,
really
it's
psychosis or none of that.
external. It's external. It's coming from outside your head. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, try convincing a doctor about that. That's just doesn't work.
Yeah,
Um,
I tell my doctor about it too, and I've showed her I've showed her videos and everything, and you know, she tries to blow me off and act like it don't exist. And I'm like, well, look at this, look at this. Oh yeah, that's another question I had for you. How did you find out what a targeted individual was and what V2K remote neural monitoring that you were experiencing that? How did you know? Because me, how I found out what it was, I was confused. I was going crazy. I was like, man, this is nuts. I'm getting stalked. I'm getting my wife's voice talking to me.
Yeah.
I'm getting voices telling me I'm worthless. Don't do that, you know, chatterbots. And
Well,
so my
there's
wife sends me this video, and it's James Harkin, and she said, I did this to you. And it's got it's James Harkin video saying what is community policing? And that's what got me, how I started researching it from there, what target individuals were, and I figured out, wow, that's me.
So first of all, I had to, like we were discussing before, I had to convince myself that I'm not crazy. So until that happened, which I think took about 2 years, just like you, I was convinced that I needed to do something, take another pill or do some other therapy or whatever. So until that happened, I wasn't really looking outside on the net for anything like this. I mean, I described and I put an article on the net about what happened to me. I called it Bluetooth in the head, which I wrote that down in 2017 just to describe what happened. But
Bluetooth in the head, that's a good way to describe it.
yeah. So I lost my trail of thought. So you were saying, so how did I find this out? So I first tried to convince myself that I'm not crazy. But that's still a daily struggle because everybody you talked about or talk to around me, I mean, you cannot get anybody to accept that this is real. So then I started to look when I knew this wasn't made up somehow. Then I started to look online, and then on Twitter and some other mainly on Twitter. I bumped into Roy, which you also know. And I started
Pause
to read
this.
stuff about people, and
I'm gonna
the
pause it because you broke
oh, are we breaking up? Oh,
connections unstable, but they might be messing with it. Sorry about that. They were freezing it up. So we paused, but he was in the middle of telling us how he learned what a target individual was and what was going on.
yeah. So what really convinced me after I first of all convinced myself that I'm not crazy, is when I listen to the stories of other target individuals, which have too many similarities to be coincidental. I mean, it's just not possible that somebody in Japan, somebody in the UK, somebody in the States, many people in the States I
And
talked
give
to,
him one more
that they
minute.
come,
It froze up again, but I'm gonna sit here and wait for a minute.
shall
Pause it.
shall we go and have 5 minutes and I go and smoke a cigarette and we go back?
All right, there. You're
Is
back.
there? Okay.
Do you want to smoke a cigarette real quick? I can pause it.
Uh, I'm good to go. Let's
Okay.
continue if it works. So listening to all the other people, talk to them directly. We had these TI calls every Sunday with Roy, for instance. When I hear other people talking about this, the fact that they are going to, and that's breaking up again, I
It
think.
froze up again.
Dave, are you there? Hello.
Oh,
Yep.
there you are.
Yeah.
All right, we're back. Sorry for the interruptions. So one thing I wanted to make clear too is when I said I take Ativan, I wasn't trying to tell people to take Ativan or nothing. It's kind of a last resort for me because it can be addictive. I use it responsibly. I don't take it every day. It's just when I'm having very, very problems because it is addictive. So I don't really want to be on here pushing no. And then you'd be like, oh, I got addicted to benzos because of David. No, it is addictive, but if you use it responsibly, you don't get physically dependent on it. If you take it 3 or 4 times a day every day, you'll go on withdrawals. So you don't need to do that. But like if I have a rough day and V2K is in my head and I can't get it out, or I can't get my brain to stop focusing on it where I can sleep, I'll take one. Other than that, I try not to take them unless I very, very much need them. It's a last resort. I also have Seroquel I take when that happens to it. But Seroquel is a really, really last resort because it really, really knocks you out.
And Seroquel is also something you cannot just take when you need to. I think you need to build it up and build it down.
Yeah, well, I mean, it works to make you sleepy.
Yeah,
For me, it does.
yeah,
Oh,
and
yeah, and one more thing.
it's not a
Mental
benzo.
health, really, all studies aside, is when they put the DSM manual together, it's mental health really does not exist. It's really all put up to make a whole nother profession. And I have a video I'll be sharing this week on that just to clear out what I'm saying and verify what I'm saying about the history of mental health.
Yeah.
So
So
back to you.
yeah.
Targeting, when did your target, how did you figure out what a target individual was? We'll try to,
Mostly what convinced me is, so I started to read stuff online. I started to talk to people, to chat to people, and it's really listening to the life stories of other TIs that convinced me that it was real and that it is and what it was. Just hearing the similarities with other people, like I said, here in Europe, I don't think we have the directed energy weapons as much. But the voices, the gang stalking, the street theater, the remote neural network, net neural monitoring, those things, when you read in more detail what this is about, those tricks and what it is composed of, those things are very recognizable to me as well.
so like, could you give an example of what your V2K does? Mine will constantly nag me all day, try to talk down on me about being worthless, or try to discourage me from talking to God or reading the Bible, or telling me I'm going to be murdered, have my head cut off. Just, I mean, it can go from a range of stuff. And, they
Yeah,
use my wife's voice. Sometimes they use my sister's voice. And then sometimes it's just voices I ain't never heard of. Sometimes I have 5 or 6 people laughing evil laughs at the same time in my head. And no, I'm not crazy, by the way. It's V2K chatterbots is what it is.
yeah.
I did
One of the worst things, and it's also more one of the most things that they did to me is the last time I was intimate and I was having sex with somebody, they kept on talking through that, and that was very violating. Felt like rape, to be honest.
right.
And
Your privacy
this is
was
now several
invaded.
years ago, and I mean, it's like every time you try to have something more intimate with somebody, then they break that down, and it's impossible to have intimate relationships with anybody anymore because they will just spoil that in the most filthy way possible.
Very traumatic.
The other thing I mentioned before is directed energy weapons. I don't have, but this is not really V2K. What I do have is that they will create those sensorial experiences, like they're moving over your skin, things like this, like on the back of your spine and
Yeah.
things like that. Those are this sometimes when at certain moments, like when you're starting to sleep and they start to do things like that, and then they create scenarios where you're supposed to be sleeping in a, think of it as a dormitory or something with one big mattress, when you're supposed to be, yeah, against your will, cuddling and stuff with other people, and then you have these sensorial feelings that they make you feel on your skin, and that's, I mean, it's very, it's, to me it's like rape. I mean,
Right.
it's I'm not sure how else, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do they ever like I noticed that's something they started doing about 4 or 5 months ago. Uh that's about the only sensory thing I get. They'll shock my testicles. My left testicle, they'll shock it. Like I'll
Yeah.
feel shocks. Um and I haven't felt that the whole time I've been a target, but the last 6 months I've felt it. They'll do it every and it hurts very bad.
Yeah, they do things like this on my anus sometimes. And I
Right.
have feelings like if it's somebody touching it. It's horrible.
Right. So that's got to be traumatic. I ain't never. I mean, well, I'm trying to think. You know, having an intimate moment with somebody and then having V2, that's got to be very traumatic. You
And they're
know.
like talking through this as if they're just talking down on you, feeling superior, and just like, oh well, this thing is doing that, and so it's just like, yeah, evil.
Do you think you're broadcast on the dark web or anything? Because you know, a lot of people do. A lot of people say, and I've been researching this and trying to find it to do a video on it. You know, broadcasting voyeurism. Because you know, none of us is private. You know, you be in the shower taking a shower and you're wondering, are they watching me right now? You know, they see everything.
They are. Yeah, I know that's one of those other things. But I mean, you have to take a shower, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
take a shower.
Yeah, you got to take a shower. But I'm saying it gets creepy sometimes if you really, really think deep. All this technology they have and stuff, you're like, wow, there's no privacy at all.
Mm, indeed. Yeah, they've at some point they've actually tried to lure me into trying to get me to supposedly read somebody else's mind or do things like that, and I've always refused this categorically. I mean, for me, it's like you don't do this. You have to respect somebody's privacy and their mind, and if they're gonna try to get me into playing their game with them as abusers, I always said no. I mean, this is too far. You have to respect somebody's yeah.
Right. So they were trying to con you into reading other people's minds.
Yeah, they did that at one point. Yeah. And then they said, yeah, you have to do that. It's a better way of communicating and all that. And that makes it all easier. And one of the things that they also do is they try to force you or trick you to supposedly communicate without words.
Yeah.
This is part of one of their psychological manipulation methods, where they then try to not make you think certain things. Because if you're like waiting for seeing something in someone else's mind, at that moment you're not thinking for yourself. And so you're waiting until you see something supposedly in somebody else's mind. But really they're just tricking you into controlling your own thoughts by not thinking for yourself what you were thinking about before. What they do a lot as well is when you start to think about something in a specific direction, a specific trail of thought, and it's not to their liking, that they start to create they jump to another topic, and it's all of a sudden it's confused and everybody lost kind of what it was about. And you have to
Yeah,
then
like
focus.
make you force speech to jump to a different topic.
Yeah.
So you're talking about forced speech, right?
Oh, I'm not talking about me talking to them.
Okay. All right.
The forced speech is that they also try to make me do this. There's two variants of that I've noted down. One is what I call the auto repeat. It's like when you get somebody, I say something to you, and it's like you are saying exactly at the same time what I'm saying, but with a very slight delay, as so. And the other variation of this is what I call the subtitles. By the way, the other one is what I call the auto cue. It's like they're trying to somehow to your motor cortex or something force you to say things. I guess this is what you call for speech, right?
Yeah.
And when that happens, I always feel something in the back of my head, like they're trying to grab something there somehow. I'm only describing the sensorial experience. And when they do that, it's like then you trying to say, then you start to say things that you didn't really want to say, but it's like you don't have the ability anymore if you let that happen, but you can prevent it from happening. At least I can. If you don't if they start to do that, they do the forced speech thing, the auto cue as I call it. It's like if you don't have the ability to react in time to stop them from then forcing you to say the next words or the next sentence or part of the sentence.
Yeah.
And what also happens in those kind of situations, this is like if you're in, like in a, imagine if, as if you're in a virtual room with 4 or 5 people, up to 8 people at the same time. I've been able to count. And each time it's like part of a sentence, a word, even sometimes half a word gets said by another individuality. And it's like it goes round and round and round and round, and you're unable to really feel or sense what kind of person is this, who is this person, who is this guy, what kind of individual might be behind this. Like, that's why I use the word individuality and not individual, because they keep on going round and round, probably through this kind of forced speech kind of thing.
Right. And another thing they'll do
Which is why I wrote down and I posted on Twitter a while back the concept of what I call the bully ring. So in the middle you have the victim. So in my example, that would be me. Around this you have a first ring of bullies or abusers that are, for instance, people could also be victims that are being forced speeched to say something, maybe through some sort of automation, a human under the API, under the application programming interface. And the outer layer around that, in the outer ring in the bully ring, is those are the ones really in control behind the computer, typing what needs to be said and controlling the whole scenario.
right. And that's another thing they'll do too is if you're in a room with people talking about something serious, they can force you to laugh. And then when you laugh and people's talking about something serious, they're looking at you like, why did you just laugh? And you're like,
exactly.
well,
Yeah. Very recognizable.
So do you think this V2K remote neural monitor, could you explain how you think it works?
I mean, technically?
Just, well, don't get that deep, but just like because I know you're a computer scientist, so I know you can get deep with it. But where people can understand it.
Well, I just explained the concept that if you won't let me look up the concept of the bully ring, I'll show you the diagram that I made with this. If you give me a moment.
Yeah, I think I've seen it before.
I just want to maybe bring it up on the screen so I can help.
Here, let me see if I'm going to give you permission to share the screen. I think I got to give you permission. Hold on, let me see.
Bully ring.
And there, it should let you now.
Excuse me. I don't have the right diagram that I wanted to show. Let me see if I can see something else.
Yeah, because there's all kinds of patterns. You got the I mean, you got what do you call that? Audio spotlight. There's different kinds of patterns and stuff for this V2K and remote neural monitor and stuff. But I'm surprised that you don't get street theater and gang stalking, because remote neural monitoring relies on you responding and reacting to map out your brain. They want to push you into certain responses so they can map out what your brain is doing, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Let me see if I can share my. Oh no, I have to do some system setting stuff. Oh yeah, okay. I have to be in this. Yeah. Okay. Now it's going. Oh, I'm not going to share it. Let me send you the link though. Maybe you can share, because if I have to share it, I have to stop the Zoom call. Let me just send you the link.
Can you put it in the chat? The link in the chat? Let me see if I can share it.
WhatsApp, and let me. Oh, there's also a chat on Zoom, right? I just put it on WhatsApp.
Yeah, I don't have access to WhatsApp through here.
Here you go. It's on Zoom.
Okay. Let me see. Share. Then you can explain what's going on. Well. Okay, right here.
You only see an empty screen now. Yeah, okay, it's coming up.
All right, hold on.
Yeah, so that was what I was trying to explain before. So they have these inner circle of the bullying, and they have this outer circle, and those people behind that are typically insulated through some sort of like a firewall. And then there's typically a distractor abuser, which keeps on shouting and sabotaging and confusing the conversation, all the time. And then there's also typically the abuser behind us, which has access to some sort of mix table switchboard to control who is talking.
Right. All right. So this right here, where my mouse is going, it says abuser that disposes of a kind of a mixed table or switchboard that controls who can hear who and now load and how distorted.
Allowed, yeah, that's probably a type.
Yeah, how loud and distorted. And here's the outer bully ring, which is where abusers from the ATG alike control the abuse with their disposal bunch of abuse tech. And then you got the inner bully ring, which can contain abusers that are themselves pushed towards abusing the victim while being largely unaware of the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And then you
And
got
so
the ATG, which is a light data
yeah,
center.
so we can talk about this. So I know who my abusers are. I know the organization. I actually used to work there for 16 years.
Mm-hmm.
Before I was aware that what they were actually doing. So it's this company called Alight. ATG is what is sort of an acronym. It's the inverse of GTA. That's the computer game, but it's also stands for Ancestral Task Group, which is sort of where I think they are coming from. Is that they are? Have you read the book Committee of 300? Yeah, but that's maybe a bit too much sidetrack right now. But what is also happening, and what I wanted to explain on this bullying concept, is that this is also being fed with data from an AI, and the machine learning is all the time trying to learn and compensate and anticipate everything you're going to say. And so the more and more that the machine learning is getting better, the more difficult it is for you to say to react in the same way, to get out of these scenarios or these negative spirals that they create in these conversations all the time. So they are force feeding the conversation through AI, through the database that they've created with machine learning, to try to push your conversation with the with the V2K voices towards something that is negative for yourself as a victim. And that is being directed by multiple abusers as well, that keep on monitoring and doing this. They can also put this on full automatic if they want to, but they've done that only very few cases in my experience. So there's typically always somebody able to intervene, but they
So you
can't
don't
put
think
it.
there's an AI running the algorithms and stuff?
Yeah, but they always intervene. So they will run it through a scenario, but when the scenario doesn't come up with their expected outcome, they will typically intervene and change the conversation manually and go away from the automatic script that the AI came up with.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see
So
what you're saying.
it comes down to the fact that as a TI, if you're in the middle of the bully ring, you have to try to be as unpredictable as possible, while at the same time, of course, still being a respectful and a good person. Of course, you don't want to be all over the place, but trying to be a good person and trying to be respectful to yourself as well as to others, even to abusers, is really key. They will typically also, excuse me, this is me smoking too much cigarettes. Hold on.
Yeah,
They will typically, what was I going to say? They will try to trap you into becoming more and more hostile towards the voices. So as you become more hostile, the conversation quickly degenerates, and it becomes irrational, and it becomes essentially yelling back and forth if you keep on letting it going. So as an advice to any other target individual, what I can give is try to make sure you do everything possible to make sure that it doesn't degenerate the conversation. Try to keep it respectful. Don't start or don't give them a reason to feel offended. That's a weird way to say that, but don't give them a reason to feel offended, because they will take that bait and they will use that to throw something else back at you.
Yeah, and they also, they negative negative reactions get logged into the remote, the data, the map. It's all trying to create a cognitive model of different brains. So, the more negative reactions you get, the more reactions that all you get gets logged into the supercomputer. And
Yeah,
because they're trying to build different cognitive models of different people's brains, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, indeed.
And they have to have reactions to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. We done with this one?
Yeah, we're done with.
That's a good diagram, by the way. I had never
I have a
seen.
better version of this one actually, but I wasn't able to find it right one. But this one still has a bunch of typos, so apologies for that. I try to send you the latest version of that one afterwards.
Yeah, that's
Sure.
that's a good. I had seen that about a year ago. I think you posted it, didn't you? Yeah, that's a
Long.
good analogy. I had forgot all about that. So yeah, I like what you said, that they will try to get you to be hostile. They'll try to get you to commit suicide. And 90% of what they tell you are lies.
Yeah.
B2K is a line, it's all lies. So you really don't want to believe
And
anything
that's
B2K
another
says.
key point which I'd like to make about this, is that you have to learn who they are, not by listening to the content of what they say, but you have to try to keep track, to analyze their behavior. So if you can try to analyze their behavior, and in between the cracks where they do allow some of the other persons on the other side, their individuality to seep through, although as I explained to you, they will go from one word to another, having another person say that. But if you try to isolate the individualities, you learn who they are, how they behave, how they react, how they could react, what are the typical things they say. In my case, also in which language, which is also, so as I speak 3 languages, English, French, and Dutch, it also helps, like you can always feel, it's like when I start a conversation with somebody in my head, it's like I feel if it is a native English speaker or native French speaker or native Dutch speaker, or if it is a native Dutch speaker from the Netherlands or from Flanders here in Belgium, I can feel for that. And those are little things that are like intuition.
So your V2K is in 3 different languages.
Yeah, I try
Wow.
to do a bit of German as well, and there's actually, I think it's Robert Duncan who wrote in his book somewhere about this, that they struggle the most with people who speak different languages and who also think in multiple languages, because that is where their machine learning is not able to be as reactive, because
Right.
it's not just about knowing the language or being able to translate, but it's about, depending on what you're talking about, to who you're talking about, what the area of expertise or what kind of emotional charges in the conversation. You have like a different way of thinking and saying things in different languages, which an AI is not able to fully anticipate yet.
All right. So, let's see what else I got. What other questions I got? Could you like let me see where I'm at. They always take my notes off of my screen. Okay. Could you name specific or like any kind of examples of psyops they run on you? I know that's
Well,
a tough one.
what do you mean by psyops? Like the scripted suicide scripts, or?
Like scripts, yeah, scripts, different scripts they'll run on you. Do you have any examples right offhand?
Um, I'm sure if I give it some thought, I could give you a whole bunch of concrete examples, but nothing springs to mind right now. What I can say is that it has to do a lot with sabotaging me. So 2 years back, I
Right.
tried once more to get my life back to get back on my feet and to start to work again professionally. And I wanted to start a startup company actually with some former colleagues. And that was very promising. We went quite a way. I was working closely with some friends and former colleagues quite well, and we wanted to create a new company. And right when it was getting to something, then they started to attack me more intensely again with those V2K scripts, and forcing me to the point of me becoming afraid again of going through some psychotic episodes again. So there I had to say, okay, I have to stop this. I have to make sure that I do what I always do when I am in fear of running through a psychosis, and make sure I'm in safety, find rest, and let it walk over. So I had to actually stop that whole initiative because the stress, the anxiety was going to force me again into something dangerous. So and that's it. That's it about it. Trying to sabotage my whole life. Every time I'm trying to do something, they sabotage, and then I have to get out of that hole again of having went through another failure.
Yeah.
For
So
some
that's,
reason, they don't want me to be successful at anything anymore in my life, as far as I can say.
do you think that they seen you as some kind of threat or something? And that's why they started targeting you because
Um,
you're computer science intelligence, or
well, it's
do you have
there's
any idea
quite
why
a
you
bit.
were targeted?
Well, why specifically, no, but I think that I'm pretty close to the source, given that I know my abusers, I know the organization who is working behind this because I was working for them. It's allied.com. Is a company right now. It's an HR service provider, but that is just a facade for what they do. And I imagine that there's a whole bunch of other facade companies around the world from which they run operations on victims like me. But I know I actually at one point in the beginning, the third or the fourth year, third, fourth, fifth year, I think I was able to feel who I was talking to. Now I recognized the individuals, which were former colleagues, no less. So I recognized who I was talking to. And so I have no proof to say it's this person, of course, because it's all synthetic telepathy. But they know that I'm pretty close to well, I know they know that I know, and they and I know that they also know. So in that way, I could be seen as a threat, and that's maybe why they also want to keep me down, so that I don't do much more with it, or that I'm unable to do much more digging, more than they would like me to.
Right. And I was trying to find I was trying to give an example of one of these scripts from Robert Duncan's book Project Soul Catcher, but can't find it. But it's uh so here's a good thing I wanted to read just to get in the study of cybernetic. The brain can act like a digital receiver device with unique resonant circuits. This allows for individual human control in addition to creating necessary feedback loops of mutual adaptation between the control signal and the plant, an engineering term meaning the system to be controlled. So, discussion of transformations to an abstract standard is described in chapter information. This allows human experiences recorded from one person to be played onto another, such as altering their personalities or playing sensory stimuli, like what you were talking about. So when you get that sensory stimuli, they're playing a loop. They're looping that thing, and you keep feeling it, keep feeling
Yeah.
it.
There's the
And I know
whole
this sounds
yeah.
to people who
There's the
are not
whole
targeted and are
uh,
watching this. I know this sounds crazy, but this stuff's real.
that this touches on the other two concepts that Robert Duncan describes, which is the heterodyning, as well as the digital twin concept, which he also describes in his book. I think it's in Soulcatcher mostly that he describes this. Um, which, yeah, I mean, it's real. It's real. They use it's like sometimes they will. It's like music. They take bits of samples and they play it off, and then they try to put a collage together of samples that go one behind the other, but you feel it's not natural because there's not enough intonation in the conversation. And then they have all sorts of what I call camouflage gadgets, all sorts of way to make the audio quality go down so that you're not able to clearly hear the intonation in the sentence.
Right.
And see, it's a bunch of samples put together, and that could also be true on the sensorial bits, like the touching of the skin and stuff like that. So that's also very true.
Right. And I want to show something real quick. It's the same thing I was showing you. For anybody who is suffering V2K, this, let me see if I can get, okay. This right here, I was showing Stephane, this helps for tinnitus and V2K. And I listen to it every night because what it does is it essentially makes my brain focus on this music and what's going on in this music as opposed to, and then my brain focuses on that as opposed to tinnitus. This one right here, surrendering to the flow, 1 hour handpan music with multi-Martin change of colors. And anybody who, I'll put the link in the description of this video when I upload it. But yeah, this is very, very good. And I think, like I said, I think it works because my brain focuses on that peaceful music instead of the chatterbox. And then my girlfriend had tinnitus real bad, and she said it was like an ocean in her ears. She had a real bad headache, and she gets really, really bad tinnitus. I do too, but not as bad as hers. Like, she has oceans in her ears and can't even hear sometimes. So Lorraine from Alternative Homesteading Channel gave us, when we interviewed her, she told us about this. So we played it, and it took her tinnitus all the way away when it was playing. So
another thing which I can also give you as a little tip that helps a lot is if you've been behind the computer or locked up for quite a while and you've been talking to the V2K voices for a while, inside is that you actually, and I'm not sure if they do this intentionally, but I'm inclined to think that they do, that they start to tweak the way the color spectrum that you see with your eyes. What happens then is that as you start to see more brownish colors, that you first of all try to fall asleep, so your attention, your focus diminishes. And the easy way, the tip here to fix this is simply go outside, look at the sky, look at the clouds. So you get in a lot of blue light, and all of a sudden your mood also gets lifted a lot. It also helps a lot. So
wow,
they actually intentionally tweak the color spectrum that you see to see less blue light, which wakes you up, of course.
wow, okay. Do you have any other tips or tricks that you use? I heard David K's CDs works. The Dave K CD works for V2K. I've heard, if you can afford it, and it's pretty cheap, probably, is what I heard. I called him because I wanted to know details and talk to him one-on-one, and he called me back, and we keep missing contact on it because I was trying to, before you buy something or try to get into something, you want to know the details. So, but I mean, I've heard a lot of good stuff about it. That, and then there's something else.
There's another thing which I think helps is when you put, when you're in the hospital and when they take your they put the thing on your to measure your heart, when they do an EKG essentially, or an EEG, they always put some grounding wire on your pulses. Remember that?
Yeah, the little stickers.
Yeah, the stickers, exactly. So what also helps, I think, is when you hear the voices too much, is to short circuit your grounding signals together. So if you put your pulses like this together, you're essentially getting, like this. That typically also helps a little bit into dimming the signal of the voices.
Yeah, and another thing is controlled breathing, in your nose, out your mouth. So
yeah.
It's supposed to break brain entrainment. I've heard a lot of people say they had success doing that. But too bad you can't do that all day.
No, man,
You
it's. I mean, I've as this happened, I also did some mindfulness training, which is also great.
somewhat.
Being mindfulness.
Okay.
It's a kind of yoga, but more, but all the spiritual stuff, and it's really focused on feeling your body. Actually,
Right.
you're able to scan your body and then feel the from the top of your head all the way to your toes, how that feels. You can zoom on this, and that actually helps a lot to control all your senses essentially. So when they try to do things like the forced speech and stuff like that, if you've gone through mindfulness exercises, you learn from this and you're able to more quickly become aware that this is what they're doing to you and anticipate this and block them from doing this to you.
Wow. Okay. Well, Stefan, you got anything else?
Well, there's a lot, a lot more to talk about, but we don't want to drag this on too much.
If
If
you
you
got something you
want,
feel is important to talk about, talk. There, the floor is open.
well, I can talk about my abusers specifically, but I've already got myself into legal trouble when they sued me beginning of the year. So there's maybe room for some another topic on this. But no, I think, like I said already, the people behind this are the development team of the products organization, and there's a business unit called Products Within Alight.com, where I actually used to work until 2020. And yeah, they do these AI scripting and manipulation, and they automate this as much as possible for whatever reason, for whatever evil reason. But yeah, I was no longer at the company when they were. Well, I was still at the company, but I wasn't aware of it that they were doing this. But in the conversations I have with these voices, clearly those people came back to me.
Right. Do you think you might have made somebody mad or angry at you in the company to do this to you, or do you think you were a threat to somebody in the company and they wanted to get rid of you so you didn't get on top of them, beat them or get a better job? Or
No, I don't think so. I think
oh, okay.
I think I made them feel guilty. I think I made them feel question themselves, which hopefully helps. But this has been several years ago already, and somehow I haven't been able to make them see that what they're doing is really wrong. I've tried
Right.
to understand a lot. I spend a lot of time trying to understand it from their point of view. I mean, why are you doing this? How on earth do you think this is a good idea? I mean, I used to work with you. I know who you are. What happened to you as a person that you now all of a sudden start to abuse people like this? And so it's very hard to get a coherent story back from them. The one thing that does seem to come back is that they see that it's all part of a saving the world kind of thing, where they think if minds are not being controlled and they don't learn how to better control minds of everybody on the planet exactly, essentially that mankind is essentially going to self-destruct. And so they see that as a reason to justify this abuse.
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense. Because a lot of these stalkers and stuff think they're vigilantes, like they're doing the world a favor.
Uh,
And because of the smear
but,
campaigns that they're
think
told.
about the vigilantes and many of the stories I heard from the States with the perps and the other the people being followed in supermarkets and all this. Think of this. Think back on the bullying that I showed you. The people that are actually in the field, those will never be the people which actually have a lot to say. And they will always make sure that they have their traces covered. And so the people that are being forced to be the perp, they are largely in themselves also victims, and probably and unfortunately, those people probably don't know much better or don't know any better. But yeah, that's
Right.
why
They
it's
think they're
so
doing the world a
important.
favor and really they're
Yeah,
not.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I thank you for coming out, Stefan. Like
Happy
I
to do
said, oh
so.
yeah, one more thing. Do you see this ever stopping, ever
Yes, I
being
think
exposed?
there is no other way than this becoming exposed because of the scale that it is happening at. There's no way that this will not get exposed, but I mean, I read an article about this, that in the US they are actually they actually have a plan that they want to keep this a secret until 2030, after which they assume that most targeted individuals will have been dead, because usually TIs without we don't have to kill ourselves. And there's, for them, there's two outcomes from TIs. They actually they either kill themselves or they have a deadly accident somehow, with, for instance, a human on the shelf that's being controlled to drive over a guy or something, and other targeted individuals.
Right.
So and that's in that way, being a TI is a bit of a death sentence. But the scale that is happening at right now, there's probably like 2 million people being actively targeted right now all over the world. There's no way that this will not become exposed. There's also competing technologies that are making telepathy possible. So think about Neuralink from Elon Musk. That will not take long before that also allows telepathy for people to talk brain to brain. The moment that that becomes possible, and they're seeing that the conversation also gets interfered by the V2K technology that they use, there will also there will be traces, and that they're scrambling right now all the time to make sure that progress is stopped, that there's no competing technology that becomes a threat. But the scale, it's already out of control, so it
Yeah.
will have to become exposed. It will have to stop. But I mean, we talked about Roy Jacobs before. I mean, he's been a TI since 1997.
Right.
I always feel very sorry for the guy that he has to go through this for so long. He was one of the first, but if you think back about the projects after the Second World War, and MK Ultra, some other projects like that, I mean, they've done psychological manipulation on a large scale as part of DoD projects in the States, and also in the Soviet Union and other countries. Brainwashing is also a known thing. But now they do this in a remote way, and I think they can get away with it. But the scale they're doing this and the reasons why they're doing this mean that it cannot stay a secret. The other thing, and that's why I do encourage you, although it is a really crazy book, it's called The Committee of 300. It sounds completely nuts when you read the book. But if they think they can run the whole planet as a sort of secret society from behind the curtains, that is a very inefficient way of governing if the persons who are governing are not known. So for that efficiency reason alone, they will at some point have to explain what it is they are doing, what it is they are disposing, that they have to their disposal, to say, to wake up the world into this new to explain people, look, this is the new reality. And 10 years from now or 5 years from now, we're in this global fascist dictatorship. I'm being a bit dystopian, but just to make the point, this is the new reality. Your thoughts are being monitored, your thoughts can be controlled, and this is how we want you to live your lives in this world where you actually don't have any more privacy. If you abide by these and these rules, which they will want to communicate, then you're okay. If you don't, then this will be the consequences. So it's essentially a dictatorship in the making. But for that dictatorship to become reality, they will have to disclose what they've been doing and what they are doing.
Right. Well, that's a good analysis. Before thank you for coming out before, and here's some food for thought, because in Daniel 12, verse 4, it says, and this is talking about the end. He tells Daniel, "Shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased."
Hmm.
And that's what's going on now.
Yeah,
No.
indeed.
Well, I thank you, Stephane, for coming out, and I'm going to stop the recording right now, and then we can say our
Thanks for having
goodbyes.
me.